I'm pretty pissed. I ain't gonna lie about it. I mean, there's certain things that just pisses me off. And this is one of them. I'm tired of people walking around dancing around Donald Trump. I'm not an extreme leftist, okay? But I ain't MAGA either. I call balls and strikes. Some stuff is just bullshit, and it needs to be said. It's time to do that now. The Stephen A. Smith Show in the house. Let's roll. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Always coming at you, looking to make some noise. Obviously, I'm on vacation. You haven't seen me for a while. I'm in and out throughout 6 weeks during the summer, from July to about mid-August. I told y'all I will pop in and out, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I got a lot on my mind, so let me get right to it, okay? Because I got former governor of New York, the one and only Andrew Cuomo, coming on, not just to respond to present incumbent mayor Eric Adams, but also Mr. Zohran Mamdani, who beat him in the Democratic primaries in New York City. So Andrew Cuomo has got a lot to say since he's remaining in the race as an independent, and I'm looking forward to interviewing him. But that's going to take a few minutes before I get to that, because I have some things to say about our president, Mr. President himself, Donald Trump. That's right, we're going to get started right in the nation's capital, okay? Where the commander-in-chief himself is not a fan of the NFL Commanders, evidently, at least the name for the Washington's football team. President Donald Trump is threatening to hold up a new stadium deal for the Commanders if the team does not go back to its old name, the Redskins, which is considered offensive to Native Americans. Trump also said Sunday that he wants Cleveland's baseball team to go back to his former team, the Indians. All right. The Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians have had their current names since 2022, and both have stated that they have no plans to change them back. Trump obviously took to Truth Social on Sunday with this quote: "The Washington whatevers should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past. Our great Indian people in massive numbers want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We are a country of passion and common sense. Owners, get it done." 3 exclamation points. Late in the day, the president followed up about the stadium deal. Quote, "My statement on the Washington Redskins has totally blown up, but only in a very positive way. I may put a restriction on them if they don't change the name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders. I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable, and the deal would be more exciting for everyone. Indians are being treated very unfairly. Make Indians great again." Ladies and gentlemen, this is the epitome of bull and the epitome of pettiness. Now, I'm not one that sits here, although I can be critical of the president. We all know how I feel about the Democratic Party and how they lost the election. They blew the election, and they tried to pull the country to the extreme left. And as a result, they've ravaged our nation, for crying out loud. Okay? We know how critical I can be about the Democratic Party. That ain't the focus of today's diatribe that I'm about to go in on. You've got a situation with Donald Trump. You don't have anything better to do? Of course you do. This is an evasive tactic. That's why I call BS on it, because it's an evasive tactic. Tariff wars, how's that working out? Yes, we've got pledges. We've got trillions of dollars in pledges from businesses and manufacturing throughout the United States of America. When's that going to come to fruition? We've got a border issue. No doubt he closed the border. Make no mistake about it. Immigration has improved in this country, whether we like it or not. But how he's going about it, how he's been going about it, particularly throughout the streets of America, and especially in Los Angeles, you got folks being pulled over, law-abiding citizens, maybe not American citizens. They're here as migrants. They're here illegally, fine. Breaking no laws, working, paying taxes, but somehow, some way, I thought the criminal elements were going to be focused on. I thought we were going to get the criminals out of this country, not just go and have folks scared to show up to work, for crying out loud, who have disobeyed no laws. How about that? So we can sit there and we can have visions from 2 vantage points. Nevertheless, that's not as clean cut as everybody tries to make it out to be. There's a war between Russia and Ukraine that you promised to absolve from day one. That hasn't happened. There's the Israeli-Hamas conflict, where destruction is taking place in Gaza, where it's been reduced to rubble, where women and children are homeless, where we see and hear about children starving for bread. And all we hear from you is, hey, Israel, we need to stop this. Let's have a ceasefire. But that still is not completely resolved. There's a whole bunch of issues that are going on in the United States of America. There's those Epstein files that even the MAGA right has turned against Trump on, at least to some degree, not just MAGA right followers, podcasters, but also representatives on Capitol Hill who want the list to be released. With folks saying, hey, just show the list. Just show us who's on the list. You got people like me taking heat because I don't give a damn about the Epstein list, only because I'm thinking about politicians lying all the damn time. I'm thinking it was a campaign ploy, even though that's not something that Trump campaigned on. The MAGA right certainly did. And so you got folks from the deep state, as they say, that may have been a part of the Epstein files, and people may want to know who was that. Who was that was engaging in sex trafficking and other salacious and incendiary behavior with underage girls. And suddenly that list has not been revealed, contrary to what Pam Bondi told us, contrary to what Kash Patel told us, contrary to what Dan Bongino swore to us. So we got all of this going on. And you bring up the Redskins and their name from years ago? And the Commanders of the National Football League? Really? That's where we going? Now, for those of you that don't understand the particulars about what's going on, I'm here to break it down for you because it's important that I point this out to you to make sure I get this out of the way, okay? Because it's important that you know this. The stadium where RFK Stadium, where the Redskins used to play when they were the Redskins, there's a new stadium that Josh Harris, the owner of the Washington Commanders, who with his group purchased the Washington Commanders for over $6.5 billion less than 2 years ago. This man is looking to build a new stadium project on an old RFK site. The projected cost of it is expected to be valued at about $3.7 to $4 billion. $2.5 to $2.7 billion is what Josh Harris has pledged to spend himself. So after spending $6.5 billion to buy the franchise, he's willing to spend an additional $2.5 to $2.7 billion on a new stadium. They're looking for an additional $1 billion plus from the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. And these are where the problems lie. Because Trump's position is that, well, RFK Stadium, or the old RFK Stadium site, is federal land, federal property. What he's ignoring is that 15 days before he returned to office, former President Joe Biden signed legislation on his desk that enabled it to be transferred to a 99-year lease to the District of Columbia, which means that even though it's still federal property, the dominion belongs to the District of Columbia for the next 99 years. That's not stopping Trump, however, from bloviating and talking about what he's going to do. What is this about, ladies and gentlemen? This is about him appealing to his base. This is about him once again giving the impression that promises made, promises kept is something he stands on. That's what he's doing. But the real stuff that needs to be done, the real stuff that he needs to be doing, the real stuff that he actually has the power to have profound influence over, we ain't hearing enough about that. There's been critics all over the place about the big, beautiful bill. There's been critics all over the place about how he has gone about enforcing new immigration laws. There have been critics all over the place about the inordinate amount of executive orders he's handed down, with lawsuits all over the place involving the federal courts, the local courts, ultimately to the Supreme Court. You got to wonder how long stuff is going to stay in place and what have you. And to debunk all of that, to veer our attention away from all of that, to get us focused on something else, this man has brought up the Washington Commanders. Really? Seriously? And you got people out here falling for the okie doke. I want to read some of the numbers here because, again, Washington, D.C. City Council, they have not refused Mayor Muriel Bowser's stadium funding request, because she's requesting $1 billion, but it did pause formal approval, insisting on more scrutiny and legal clarity. While money is budgeted, the definitive go-ahead vote is still pending. The council did set aside about $1 billion in the 2026 budget for infrastructure costs related to the stadium development at RFK, but crucially did not formally authorize the funding terms tied to the stadium deal itself. Council leadership indicated that while they support financing infrastructure, they need to finalize a separate bill to make the stadium terms binding. The vote has been delayed, likely pushing the decision to the fall, okay? But there's more about this. Remember, RFK Stadium, 180-acre campus. Even though it remains federally owned, control shifted to that 99-year lease to the District of Columbia in January of 2025. That means the city, through Events DC, by the way, will own and manage the property long-term while the federal government retains formal title. Joe Biden signed a land bill in a bill back on January 6th, 2025, okay? By which time the Washington Commanders under Harris are set to become the operators of the new stadium, but they won't own the land itself. Those are the facts, okay? Let me give you some other facts, because all of this is relevant. This is why Trump gets to bloviate, but this is why it gets interesting, because even though he's just bloviating and he doesn't necessarily have the power to dictate anything, what he can do is use his prowess, use his cachet, use his popularity, at least in the eyes of some people, to point some things out. Remember, since Trump got into office, nearly 3,000 federal employees have been let go. Did y'all remember that? 58,500 confirmed job cuts, 76,000 buyouts, 149 planned reductions as of June 3rd, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Washington, D.C. is dominated by one industry: politics. It's a solo industry town. If you've got people losing their jobs, and I'm not saying all the jobs, the federal jobs, came from Washington, D.C. Of course, not all 300,000, but a lot of them came from D.C. Here's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to patronize products? Who's going to patronize restaurants, stores and shops, venues, et cetera, et cetera? Who's going to do that? The city council is basically saying, how the hell can we justify coming up with $1 billion for a new stadium when all of these people have been laid off by the federal government or let go by the federal government? And by the way, just as an aside, I want to point out, I don't think Josh Harris did the right thing by responding publicly and talking about how the name would never be changed. Because you know Trump, all he's going to do is double down. My question to the president is why? Why are these frivolous issues so important to you? We were born at night, not last night. This is BS. And once again, it's a combination of two things. Him being petty and showing his prowess, him being evasive, I would say, to keep us steered away from the real issues, and also to get into a public battle with the NFL. Because obviously that draws attention. Last point, because I got to get to Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, who's now going to be on the show again. I got to get to him. I want to state this point because I think this is very, very important to show y'all how senseless all of this is. It's much ado about nothing. It's something that Trump is making into something because evidently he doesn't want our attention on the real issues. Because there's a lot of projections, a lot of speculations, a lot of promises, but things that are finite in writing as a matter of law and what have you, even though the big, beautiful bill is something they're going to stand on because it preserves the 2017 tax cuts, let's be very, very clear. There's a lot that people have a problem with as it pertains to the big, beautiful deal. Republicans as well as members of MAGA. Of course, the Democrats as well. But as it pertains to football, did y'all know that last season, the Washington Commanders were helped immensely with the arrival of Jaden Daniels and the team's performance en route to a 12-5 season and a trip to the NFC title game, their first one since 1991? Did you know that last season the Commanders nearly surpassed the entire 2023 merchandise revenue by November thanks to Jaden Daniels' breakout season? Did you know that from the start of the 2024 NFL season through January, Jaden Daniels had the #1 selling jersey in all of sports according to Fanatics? Did you know that sparked by Daniels, sales for Commanders merchandise skyrocketed 463% from 2023 to 2024 and increased 4,129% once Washington made the playoffs? What's the lesson in all of this, ladies and gentlemen? Star power. Nobody's thinking about the name. They don't have a problem with the Redskins being gone. They don't care that it's the Washington Commanders. They care that Jaden Daniels is their quarterback. Instead of guys like Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, who were quarterbacking the Commanders the first 2 years since the name changed. That's why the popularity paled in comparison to when Jaden Daniels arrived, because Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke were not Jaden Daniels. Star power is what sells. And because they got Jaden Daniels, and because they were knocking on the door of a Super Bowl berth, they mattered. Nobody's making noise about the Commanders being the Commanders other than the president, who made this into a separate issue because he sees an opportunity to capitalize it off of it with his base. Period. Don't fall for the okie doke. We got better things to do with our time. We got better things to do with our time. And damn it, Mr. President, so should you. This is ridiculous. The Native American community, many American Native Americans out there are clamoring for a return to the Redskins. In what world? Where the hell is your evidence about that? I mean, please. I got Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion to get into. The CEO who got busted with his HR person. All right? The married CEO. I got that to get into. And I've got some incredibly sad news to touch on involving Malcolm Jamal Warner. Theo from The Cosby Show. All of that is coming up later on in the show, but not before I get to the former 3-term governor of the state of New York, now running for mayor of New York City. The one and only Andrew Cuomo is up next, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away.
A lot of people don't know Andrew Cuomo. They used to the name Cuomo because his dad was a great governor of Mario. Yes. But let's understand this person. He has a problem with black men in leadership positions.
Really?
Let me peel it back for you. Carl McCall ran to be the first black governor. Andrew Cuomo gets in the race and sabotages his race, and he ran on an independent liberal line and refused to get out. Carl McCall did not become the governor. A person named Charlie King ran to become the first black AG. Charlie King raised $5 million, was one of the leading candidates. Andrew Cuomo got in the race, sabotaged his race. Charlie King had to get out. Andrew Cuomo became the AG instead. David Patterson, the first African-American governor, wanted to run for re-election. Andrew Cuomo sabotaged his race. David Patterson wouldn't run for re-election. Andrew Cuomo runs and do the same. He sabotaged Keith Wright's run to be the first black speaker. He has a history when it comes down to black elected officials. I chose my terms very clear.
Okay.
I did not call him a racist. I said he has a problem against black men. Now, you could have a problem against black men without being a racist.
That was the incumbent mayor of New York City, the one only Eric Adams, that was on this show last week. And it is now my pleasure to have on this show today for the second time the former 3-term governor for the state of New York, who is now running against Adam as an independent for the mayor's seat in New York City. The one and only Andrew Cuomo is back on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? How's everything?
How are you, Stephen A. Smith? I'm doing very well. Thank you.
It's good to see you. You heard what the incumbent mayor of New York just had to say about you. He said a lot more, but it was along those lines. Your response to what he has to say about you having an issue with black men who are in leadership positions.
Yeah. Let me just say, Stephen A., desperate people say desperate things, right? Forget the implication. It's factually wrong, everything he said. Ambassador Carl McCall is one of the most respected black leaders in New York, former ambassador, former controller for the state of New York, really an extraordinary man. He actually called on me to enter into this contest. and supports me. Governor David Patterson, yes, first black governor in New York State, he supports me. Charlie King, another person you mentioned, he supports me. So if somebody has a problem with black leadership, black men, it's Eric Adams, because none of them support him. So, but look, desperate people say desperate things. Let me just leave it at that.
You know, one of the polls, I'm looking at one of the recent polls that came out. I think it was, I got a hold of it this morning and I was talking about it. I mean, right now, you're leading him amongst black voters.
Yeah.
Tell us why you think that's the case when we're talking about, because obviously a lot of black voters supported Eric Adams, and that's what got him into office to begin with as the mayor of New York City. That doesn't appear to be the case now. What edge would you surmise that you have over him, particularly with black voters?
You know, Stephen A., I don't think people, I think people are better than we think. I don't think people are voting by gender identity, race, etc. I think they know a person and they support a person based on what they've done. I've worked with the black community. I was Housing and Urban Development Secretary under Bill Clinton. I was Attorney General. I was governor for 11 years. We know each other very well. It's a genuine, deep relationship forged over decades, frankly. And it's a beautiful thing, and I'm very proud of it. And so that's what it is. And yes, I'm doing better with the black community than Eric Adams. And that's why he's saying the crazy, nasty things that he's saying, right? But he's not going to change. He's not going to change their minds. They know what I've done. They know what I've performed. They know the difference I made in their lives. They know what I've done as governor for 11 years. So that's a very deep, personal relationship.
So, Governor, I mean, listen, your popularity amongst African-American voters is undeniable. Eric Adams is challenging that. At this point in time, how concerned are you about him being that formidable challenger, particularly with you running as an independent instead of a Democrat?
Yeah, look, Eric Adams' problem is caused by a gentleman named Eric Adams. Back in April, he was basically unelectable. Why? Because of the condition of the city. New Yorkers didn't think he did a good job. He had a series of corruption cases all through his administration. And then he was charged with a crime. And then Donald Trump dropped the charges. But the president didn't just drop the charges, didn't pardon the charges. He dropped the charges conditioned on Adams cooperating with his administration. And that's when New Yorkers really felt betrayed. Because Adams made a deal to keep himself out of jail, but he became Trump's puppet in New York City. And that New Yorkers wouldn't tolerate. And that's why Adams couldn't run in the Democratic primary, because Democrats didn't want to have anything to do with him. And Democrats are still 70% of the vote in the general election. So he is not electable by the people of the city of New York. And if I were to disappear tomorrow, Stephen A., he would get crushed by the person on the Democratic line.
You don't think he'd have a chance against Mamdani?
No.
You don't think Eric Adams would? No, at all?
Nope. No.
Why?
Because it doesn't even get to Mamdani. It's about Eric Adams, and they don't want to reelect Eric Adams. So it wouldn't even get to the merits of Mamdani, who is on the Democratic line, but is a socialist, okay? I'm on an independent line, but I'm a Democrat. So, the politics nowadays are topsy-turvy. And that's what we're seeing in this election. Mamdani is a socialist. And I don't believe when we get to a general election, New Yorkers are going to vote for a socialist who is anti-business, anti-capitalist, anti-police, fuels anti-Semitism. I don't believe New Yorkers vote for him. Now, if it was between him and Adams, yes, because they're not going to vote for Adams. But I think if I get a chance to take Mamdani on one-on-one, I think I beat him.
I'm going to get to you and Mamdani in a couple of minutes because that is just a fascinating scenario that I see unfolding personally. And I don't blame you one bit for staying in the race and running as an independent because we know about 20% of the voters showed up for the primaries. And I get that part. So it's millions of votes out there that will take place during the general election. It doesn't during the primaries. I get that part. But back to Adams. I'm wondering, sir, because news, it circulated in the news that you called him. That you wanted to talk to him about potentially stepping aside and allowing you to run as the sole independent in this particular race. Could you elaborate on that? Was that indeed a call that took place? If so, what exactly is it that you said to Mayor Eric Adams at that time?
That never happened. What did happen is this. Governor David Patterson, former governor of New York, served before me, great Democrat, great governor. He put forth, he saw this collision course with Adams and myself, a multi-candidate race, helps Mamdani. So Governor Patterson's proposal was, we get to September, whoever is the stronger candidate goes forward, the other candidate defers to the stronger candidate who has a better shot against Mamdani. I accepted that proposal because I do believe the goal here is to beat Mamdani. I think New York doesn't want a socialist. I think the socialist policies he's putting forth would be very hurtful to New York City, so I accepted it. That's the only factual situation. And look, it's sort of an inarguable proposal, right?
Okay.
If you believe you're not the stronger candidate, then you're just a spoiler. And if you're just a spoiler, then it's about you and it's about your ego. But you're driving the car off the cliff. That's why, for me, I said it's a no-brainer. If I'm not the stronger candidate, I will defer. I have no problem with that.
Do you foresee a scenario in which you're perceived as the not stronger candidate by September from the independent side? Do you see that anything at all?
Nope. No. Look, why? Because I've been the stronger Democratic candidate all along before we get to the primary. People know me, Stephen A., good, bad, indifferent. 11 years as governor, 4 years as attorney general. I went through COVID with the people of New York, many people across the nation every day. They know me. And they're not going to change their opinion after 15 years of seeing me every day. They're not going to change their opinion in the next 4 months. So I know the support that I have. I don't see that changing. I believe it is going to be a difficult race against Mamdani. He's on the Democratic line.
Yep.
70% of the vote are Democrats. A lot of voters are knee-jerk. I go for the Democrat, right? A lot of the Democratic institutions, the unions, et cetera, they just knee-jerk go with the Democrat. So it's a tough race, but I don't believe that my situation changes between now and then. And every piece of information you have says that I am the strongest candidate to defeat Mamdani.
Why did you lose to Mamdani in the Democratic primaries?
I made mistakes in the campaign. I didn't focus enough on the under 30 vote. I didn't do enough on social media. And that under 30 vote, Stephen A., exploded in the primary. And in many ways, it's a microcosm of what's going on nationwide. You have an extreme right MAGA vote, and the reaction on the Democratic side has been an extreme left move on the Democratic side. I don't think either extreme is helpful or actually productive, but on the Democratic side, you have this extreme left socialist movement very attractive to the under 30 crowd. And he energized that. I wasn't speaking to it enough. They are anti-Israel for the most part. I am pro-Israel, and that was an aggravating factor. But that's where I lost the race. The under 30 voted in historic proportions. Voters who had never voted in a primary before showed up and voted at 3 times the rate of everyone else.
With that being said, Andrew Cuomo, I'm sitting back and I'm listening to you right now, and I'm saying to myself, this is a 3-term governor. If it wasn't for the scandal that rocked your administration and led to you departing from office, you would have been a 4-term governor. You know this game. How is stuff like social media and younger voters, how did that escape you? How did that happen?
Well, yeah. First of all, Monday morning quarterbacking is easy, right? If I get to replay the game, the Pacers are going to beat Thunder, right? On Monday morning.
Fair.
The under 30 vote was really an historic explosion. And in retrospect, I didn't pay enough attention to it. Now, he is also 33 years old. He had a natural attraction with the younger generation. I get all of that. But it was, the vote was unprecedented. And it was 105 degrees, and a lot of my vote didn't come out because it was 105 degrees, but no excuses. I should have run a better campaign.
I listen to you right now, and I have to say this. If you don't mind, I want to play pundit right now and throw in my 2 cents. All right, I'm listening to you right now, particularly how sharp your tongue was about Eric Adams a few minutes ago, and I'm saying, where the hell was that Andrew Cuomo during the primaries? I mean, I thought that, sir, I gotta confess, I thought you were being a little bit too nice. I mean, I'm looking at Mamdani and the way that he was coming at you during the campaign, particularly when y'all were on stage together during that last debate, and a lot of noise was made, with his sound bites about how he was coming at you. And I'm saying to myself, free buses and free child care and government run grocery store. I'm like, the ammunition is right there. Where the hell is the Andrew Cuomo that most New Yorkers have known and loved for years that would just eat that person alive in a moment like that? Where was that guy?
You have to rub it in, right? You have to rub it in. You
I'm
don't
just
think I go
asking.
through this every night, Stephen A.
Right.
You don't think I go through this every night? And if I don't go through it, God forbid I miss a night, then I have to hear from my brother. Look, I made a mistake. I was way ahead in all the polls, and I was, let's say, playing it safe. And you're right. The great irony is, my whole reputation is I'm a New Yorker's New Yorker. I'm tough. I'm combative. I'm too aggressive. And that's who I am. I'm a fighter for New Yorkers, and I don't apologize for it. And in the campaign, ironically, I was not aggressive enough. There is no doubt about that.
You on this show first go round, and you sat down and gave me the honor and privilege of sitting down with you for nearly an hour. You articulated this about yourself. You can be stubborn, pig-headed, at times, in an effort to serve New Yorkers, you may have been a bit aggressive and ruffled feathers along the way, and that might have turned people off. How much did that factor in to, dare I say, the softer approach that you had towards going at Mamdani?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I was attuned to the criticism of being too combative, too aggressive. And I think I did tone it down pursuant to that criticism. And in retrospect, that was a mistake. Because, first of all, the people who I'm too aggressive towards were basically the inside politicians, right? He was too tough on the legislature, too tough on... But not too tough on the people in New York. New York wants someone who's tough on their behalf, who fights and gets things done. Nobody got done what I got done as governor, right? Nobody built a new LaGuardia airport, new Kosciuszko Bridge, new Second Avenue subway, passed groundbreaking laws. You don't get that done unless you push. That's the only way it happens. And that was my strength. But yes, did I, in the campaign, did I try to correct for that point? Yes. And it didn't work. So much for being nice, Stephen A. That's what I say.
But isn't it also possible, or at least from a perception standpoint, that because of the sexual harassment allegations that ultimately left you to depart from office, the nursing home situation during COVID, is it possible that the residue from that is what made you a bit passive towards Mamdani because you knew it was something that he and the other candidates were going to pounce on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I know what that is. The people in New York know what that is. I think it was your point. It was the criticism that you had of me. People say you're too tough, you're too combative, you're too aggressive. All right, so I'll show you a softer, more gentle side, and I won't be as aggressive. And I wasn't. And that didn't work. And I didn't challenge the obvious simplicity of his slogans, those slick slogans that sound good, right? Everything free, free buses, free education, free food, everything's free. BS, everything's free. There's no free lunch. If it sounds too good to be true, it isn't. It
usually is.
Everybody gets it. And you're right. Government, how do you help people with the cost of groceries? Government-run grocery stores, one in every county. New York City's going to run a grocery store in Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, etc. New York City can't fill a pothole. And now you're telling me New York City's going to run a grocery store? And that's the answer? The prices in that grocery store are going to be cheaper? Grocery stores have one of the thinnest margins. It's 1% to 3%. I mean, it was a fraud. It was just a fraud. Freeze the rent. So, my rent is too high. Freeze the rent. How long can you freeze the rent? And what happens when the landlord says, well, I'm not going to fix the building? Or the landlord says, I can't pay my bills. I'm putting the building in foreclosure. It was all simple, slick slogans that could never happen, but left unchallenged, they sound good. I want free. I can have everything free. Yes, I'll vote for that, And this whole socialist school of everything free, make the millionaires pay, which, by the way, those numbers don't even add up, defund the police, dismantle the police, legalize prostitution. I mean, where are you living that you think those would be good things? You have a terrible crime problem in New York. Your answer is dismantle the police, send out social workers instead of police officers. Yeah, that's what I want in the middle of the night. Somebody's coming through the window. I dial 911. I want a social worker to knock on the door and say, let's sit down and talk about it, But
I got it. I got it. So with that being said, do you believe, is it a situation where you feel it's necessary in light of what happened in the Democratic primaries to get tough, to be as sharp as you are right now in going at them, their prognostications, what they're campaigning on? Or is this something that you want to do because you regret the fact that, you wasn't your full self, full throttle during the Democratic primaries?
No.
Is it a necessity or a desire?
No, it is a necessity because if this fellow wins, first, he has no experience whatsoever in managing anything. He never had a real job. And now he's going to be mayor of New York running 300,000 people, right? No real life experience. He's an assemblyman. He passed 3 bills. Passing 3 bills means you barely showed up, right? If you only passed 3 bills. And this is a serious job. There could be, God forbid, another 9/11. There could be a Hurricane Sandy, right? There could be a COVID. this is life and death. And with his policies, he's anti-business, anti-capitalist. How can you be anti-business in the city of New York? We're all about business. We are the business capital. We want businesses to come. We want businesses to grow. That's opportunity. That's jobs. So I think it would be devastating for New York City, and it would take a decade to recover. What lesson I did learn is I'm not going to listen to guys like you who say you're too tough, you're too combative. I am who I am. And
you can't say that. Don't put my name in there.
yeah.
I have no problem with you being rough and tough.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. That's right up my alley.
No.
I wish you were.
It was you.
I don't have.
It was you.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. What about people like AOC, who's obviously a congressional figure and what have you? I mean, she's a congresswoman. She's in the nation's capital, out of New York, but she has endorsed him. What does that mean to you, if anything at all?
It means nothing. Look, you have this extreme left reaction to the extreme right. I get it, but the extreme left is not productive or realistic either. And what has happened to New York City is a combination of two things. These extreme left policies, defund the police, cut $1 billion from the police, anti-police officer, public safety suffers, and they're anti-business. I had worked for a year to get Amazon to have a proposal to come open a headquarters in New York. Would have generated 25,000 jobs. They killed the proposal because they're anti-corporation. These are destructive, knee-jerk policies that make no sense. And I believe New York is poised for greatness. I believe you can see New York City take off because you have a lot of urban areas that are struggling in this country, right? Post-COVID, with these leftist policies, plus an incompetent government. Look at LA, look at San Francisco, look at Chicago. New York, we could take off. We just have to clean up our own act. And I know how to do that, Stephen A. I did it on the state side, which frankly is more complicated than doing it on the city side. So I think this is all or nothing for New York City. We're either going to seize the moment, clean up our act, take off, or we're going to go backwards. And with this socialist theory, you're going to see businesses leave, you're going to see wealthy people leave, you're going to see a city that's more dangerous, and we can't take that at this time.
One of the things I wanted to make sure I brought up with you was that Forbes/Harris poll. I've been reading about that, and obviously that favors you. You're number 2 behind, obviously, Mamdani, and you're well ahead of Curtis Lewa, the Republican nominee, or the candidate rather, and of course, Mayor Eric Adams. Your thoughts about that and what that poll says about you and what level of confidence that instills in you?
Yeah, they all say the same thing, Stephen A. I think in the HarrisX poll, I beat Mamdani one-on-one.
Yes.
In a multi-candidate, then it's Mamdani, me, the Republican, and then Eric Adams. So Mamdani is praying for a multi-candidate race. That's what he's praying for. If we have any intelligence at all, we'll put forth a stronger candidate and the other candidate will defer. That is just basic intelligence and basic common sense. And it's sort of one of those propositions that really gets to the core. Is this about your ego, or is it about you actually wanting to stop Mamdani? Because if it's not about your ego, then you would get out of the way if you're not the stronger candidate. And if it is about your ego, you shouldn't be in this business in the first place. Because when it's about you, the people lose.
What about people who look at you, Governor, and you'll always be my governor, so that's what I'm going to call you for the time being, at this particular moment in time. I got to ask you, when you look at the Democratic primaries and what happened, But the fact that you're running as an independent, and there's a lot of independent voters out there, there's a lot of Democrats who lean more towards the center than more towards the extreme left. Otherwise, you wouldn't be running as an independent. We get that. Some could say that's the state of affairs in the state of New York. So rather than run for the mayor's seat, do you find it possible that you could look back on this someday and, dare I say, may have regrets about the fact that you ran for mayor instead of running for the governor's seat again, since you won that race 3 times and was en route to winning a 4th time?
Yeah, I think you're getting back to your question before, Stephen A. I don't really need any of this for me. I was a cabinet secretary under Clinton. I was HUD secretary, governor, AG. My name was mentioned for vice president when I was HUD secretary. I've been talked about as a presidential candidate. I can go home and feel quite satisfied with what I've done for public service and my accomplishments. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need it. I do believe New York City is at a critical point, and I believe New York City is at a tipping point. You're going to go one way or the other. And I believe in my heart of hearts that I can help, because this is what I do. This is what I've done all my life. I've done one thing. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a tennis player. I am a government professional, and I know how to make government work, whether it's federal, state, local. Call me in, coach, because this is what I do. The last 2 minutes of the game, that's my sweet spot. That's what I do. And I can be a help to New York City. That's all this is about.
Is that your way of saying if somehow, some way, unfortunately, you lose this race, whether it's to Eric Adams or it's straight up to Mamdani and Curtis Lewa, let me not forget his name, is that your way of saying that your political career will come to an end? You're good. You can move on if you don't win this mayor's seat in New York City?
Yeah, I can move on. I can move on. There's no doubt about that. I feel very good about what I've done.
But will you?
Well, who knows what happens in the future, right? And first of all, I intend on winning this race, so I don't really get to question 2.
Last question. 2 parts. If Mamdani wins the election, what will be the state of New York? If Andrew Cuomo rises and he wins the election, what will be the state of New York? Compared the 2.
Let's assume Mamdani does a fraction of what he's talking about. You will see a tax shift. You'll see a fear among wealthy people that will increase the exodus of people leaving New York. We're now losing wealthy people from New York, okay? It is a steady stream of wealthy people leaving. Post-COVID, they're more mobile. We have high taxes. The city's dangerous. You'll see that increase. You'll see businesses say, I want to stay away from New York, because he's a socialist. He's anti-capitalist. He says government should control production. I mean, that's what he says. You will see a Jewish community that is frightened because he fuels anti-Semitism repeatedly. And it's a central theme to his entire candidacy. You will see that. You will see a more dangerous New York, because I get this theory of we don't need police. If everybody has education, everybody has a job, then nobody will commit a crime. Yeah, it's utopia. I get it. Beautiful. I'd love to believe in it. But it's not reality. And you're going to dismantle the police. You already defunded the police and dropped the police force, and it caused mayhem. So it will be a more dangerous New York. I want to do the exact opposite. I want to open my arms and say, businesses, I'm here to help. I want you coming. I'll want to court business. I'll go around the world trying to bring business back to New York, because that's jobs, that's opportunities. Young people come to the city for the jobs, and the businesses come to the city for the young people. That's the engine that drives it. Hire 5,000 more cops and make the city safe. That's where we were in the Dinkins-Giuliani era when the city was safe. Get the mentally ill homeless off the streets. You're not helping anybody, leaving dangerous mentally ill people on the streets. I get the civil liberties argument, but you're hurting them. Get them the help they need, and they're a public threat. Affordability is a real problem. Build affordable housing. It's your basic government incompetence that caused the problem. There's no supply. We have a 1% vacancy rate. It takes you 4 years to get a building permit in New York City through that broken government. I built LaGuardia Airport in 4 years. I mean, so you make the government work, you get the production of housing up, you have a real police force, you make the city safer, you're bringing jobs back to New York, you will change the whole dynamic. And you can do it quickly.
You got the energy for it. He's younger than you. You know, he walked across the city. That's what people were pointing to, Andrew Cuomo. You got the energy for this fight, my man? My last question.
He walked across the city. So what?
I'm just asking.
What does that mean?
I'm just asking.
What does that mean?
All right. Former governor of New York State, obviously challenging for the mayor's seat of New York City, the one and only Andrew Cuomo, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Thank you so much for your time, sir. You know this is not the last time we'll be talking. I expect a thrilling race. I'm looking forward to this summer continuing to unfold and looking forward to what's going to transpire in the fall. Thank you. You know there's always a home here for you to have a conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen A., and God bless.
There you have it. I mean, that's the former governor of New York State. So obviously he'll know what to do in New York City. I'm not sitting up here trying to cast aspersions or favor towards anybody. I want to be fair to everybody. I want Zohran Mamdani to know that he has an opportunity to come on this show. If he wants to talk to my viewers and listeners, I'm happy to oblige him, just like I obliged Mayor Eric Adams, just like I obliged former Governor Andrew Cuomo. I'm willing to give him the same courtesy. Now, I will be open and honest about the fact that I don't agree, you know, with anybody with a socialist agenda in this capitalistic society that we live in. I just don't buy it because I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's reasonable. I don't think it's something that's going to be efficient. Government-run grocery stores, you know, defunding the police, you know, social workers and all of this other. Nah, I'm not vibing with that. I'm not feeling that. I'm just not. You know, more of what Cuomo says is more along the lines of my thinking. More of what Eric Adams says is more along the lines of my thinking. And I think that race between Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo is going to say a lot, okay? Because it's going to be interesting if Eric Adams doesn't elevate in the polls, as the Forbes/Harris poll showed, or the Harris poll showed. If Eric Adams doesn't elevate and gain traction, is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to refuse to leave? Cuomo's already said if he's behind, he'll leave. But if he's not, he shouldn't have to. How do we feel about Eric Adams staying in the race? All of those things are things to consider. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to touch on as things unfold over the weeks and months to come. Make no mistake about it, for the elections in November. So stay tuned. Thanks again to former Governor Andrew Cuomo for being on the show. Up next, we got a few things to get into. Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion. They're making news. I'll touch on that. Plus, that CEO, the cheating CEO, the married CEO that got busted on a Jumbotron with his mistress who happened to be the head of his HR department. I mean, damn. That story won't go away, so I'll touch on that as well. And, of course, all of that will be before I end the show with a few words about Malcolm Jamal Warner, formerly Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, passed away at the age of 54. I'll discuss that in a little bit of details to end the show today, so don't go away. You're watching and listening to The Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with more in a minute. Welcome back to The Stephen A. Smith Show. Let's get to the intertwining of the world of sports and hip-hop. Because obviously, when you think about that on this particular date, you think of no one more than you're thinking about former 4-time champion, 5-time NBA All-Star, one of the greatest shooters on the planet Earth, the one and only Klay Thompson, and 3-time Grammy Award-winning rapper Megan Thee Stallion. They both have confirmed their rumored relationship. The two stepped out together on a red carpet at a gala in New York City last week and this weekend posted a video working out together. Take a look at it, y'all. Take a look. Now, look, first of all, let me say something to you. I'm going to tell y'all something. If you've noticed, you've never, ever, ever heard me say a negative word about Klay Thompson. I mean, if he had a bad game, I had to point it out. But I consider Klay Thompson one of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball. By the way, you just see him the other day. I think he hit like 72 straight jump shots. The brother is unreal. Okay? Even at this age, even though a step lost compared to what he used to be, he's one of the greatest shooters ever in the history of basketball. Top 5 shooter all time as far as I'm concerned. That's number 1. Number 2, he's a 4-time champion. Can't take that away from him. That's number 2. Okay? But here's one of the reasons you've never heard me say a negative word about him. I've always resented how the media, by naming Kemba Walker third team All-NBA 1 year years ago, cost Klay Thompson about $30 million. I've always resented that. Always. I think this dude has been a treasure to the game of basketball. I've never had the pleasure of sitting down and interviewing him, even though we've run across each other from time to time. Obviously, throughout my years covering the NBA, I got a lot of love, a lot of respect for him. And I think that his greatness, even in his prime, even his greatness is because of the unquestionable greatness of the greatest shooter God ever created, that is Steph Curry. You know, we didn't give Klay Thompson the adulation and love that he deserved. That's why when he had the Achilles tear, the ACL tear, back-to-back years, not necessarily in that order, and then he finally came back after essentially a 2-year hiatus. And when he came back into the lineup and he was introduced last that day, I believe it was at the Oracle. I mean, it's a touching moment because the fans were going crazy, and I know I was watching because he deserved it. He deserved all that love, all of it. And now here we are, people, you know, looking to get into his personal affairs. I mean, they're the ones that publicize it and all of this other stuff. But listen, I mean, you know, ain't got no issues with Megan Stallion. She is fly. She does look good. You understand? I mean, he could do a lot worse. And she is talented, and I wish them nothing but the best. I'm happy for them. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, more props to Klay Thompson. As far as I'm concerned, you know, it's just something else he's won at. Something else he's won at, okay? Bravo. Bravo. The brother can do worse. This is Megan the Stallion we're talking about here. There's a reason she's called the Stallion. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? He's got to give love where it's due. Okay, so I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm not mad at them at all. And then you see her working out. You see that? Show the video again. Show the video again. Show the video again. See her working out. So it's bad enough that, I mean, as in good, it's bad enough that you're the Stallion, but you're working at it. You ain't taking it for granted. You're really not. Now, let this be a lesson to the ladies out there, because you certainly don't hesitate to let men know this, so it's only fair to reciprocate. Don't take your beauty for granted. It may be God-given, and we understand that. But there's plenty of evidence out there about, dare I say, deterioration, and you not being what you once were if you don't work at it. Gotta get in that gym. Gotta eat right. Gotta have that water intake. You gotta stay off them drugs and alcohol. You gotta do what's right for the body. You gotta do what's right for the body. Klay Thompson, 4-time champion. One of the greatest shooters in the history of basketball. Brother, a winner. Plain and simple. And a good dude, too. Just a real one. Don't talk a lot, don't have much to say, but when he says, when he speaks, you better listen, because he don't play. He's a good brother. I know his father personally, Michael Thompson, who I love dearly. Always have. Calling games for the Lakers all of these years. He's a great man. And a great basketball mind, by the way. And knows his boxing, too. Pops knows his boxing now. By the way, he and I got to rap about the Canelo Crawford fight down the line before that fight takes place September 13th at the Reliance Stadium in Vegas. But I digress. My point is, his son is a good dude. You understand? And if he's found somebody that he wants to chill with, We can't accuse him of making a bad choice. We can't do that. Okay? But she won too. So we got 2 kids winning. 2 young adults winning. Mad love and respect and appreciation, both of them. Okay? Way to go. Both of them could do worse. Megan Thee Stallion, hell yeah, you could do worse than Megan Thee Stallion. The Stallion, working on her stallion, being the stallion. See her in the gym. That's inspiration, y'all. That's inspiration. As Martin Lawrence would say, you go, girl. Absolutely. Absolutely. Way to go, Klay. Way to go. Now, that's more than I can say about then the next subject I'm going to talk about, the next pair, okay? Because when I thought about ending this episode, if it wasn't for a serious matter that I have to address at the end, I would have ended the show with this today. You know, my reaction to the viral moment from a Coldplay concert last week. Andy Byron. Now, this brother was the CEO of of an astronomer company, right? The 1 point of Astronomer was the name of his company. $1.3 billion AI company he helped found. He was the CEO, but he had to resign. Why did this man have to resign? Can I tell y'all why? He had to resign because days earlier he was caught, they say, canoodling. That's the word, canoodling. With head of HR, his head of HR, a woman by the name of Kristen Cabot, on a jumbotron at the Coldplay concert near Boston, Massachusetts. A kiss cam showed couples throughout the stadium before stopping on Cabot, who quickly covered her face, and Byron, who swiftly ducked out of view when they were shown. Coldplay lead singer Chris Martin seemed confused before saying, quote,
either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Now, obviously, see, listen, I don't get into people's personal business like that. To each his own. Live yours. You know what I'm saying? Your heart goes out to anybody hurt in the matter. Wives, husbands, children. You certainly don't wish any negativity upon them. That's not a joking matter. That's fair to say. But let me also say this. What the hell are you doing out with your head of HR? Who don't know that need to be quiet? You the only person that like Coldplay? You didn't think somebody else in the stands might be a member of your company, Astronomer? And they might notice, ain't that the person for HR? So much for going to them for assistance. If I got a problem with the boss, I mean, you don't see the conflict of interest. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. I don't understand stuff like that. And you see, that brings me to a point that most people don't say, but I'm going to say. You know the people who get in trouble screwing around at work? Do you know who those people are? Particularly when it's men. I'm talking about the men, not the women. God bless her. She got a lot to deal with her husband and all that other stuff because you got photos of your husband and your children and all this. Everybody saw it. I mean, good luck with that. Because men ain't women. We got egos to deal with. We don't handle that stuff quite as well. All right? But to him and to the men out there, you know the kind of men, let me tip you women off, to the kind of men who get trouble screwing around at work. Not saying all, there are exceptions to every rule, of course. But these are normally the kind of women who get, the kind of men rather, who get in trouble screwing around at work. You know who they are? The dudes that wasn't getting none until they got to work. In other words, you missed the big shot. And you got that kind of cachet. And because you got that kind of cachet, your dominion at your place of business puts you in a position where you could hook up with somebody that you probably wouldn't have had no chance with had you not been in that position. This is a $1.3 billion company. So I'm certainly not trying to act like the man wasn't a success until then. But nobody knew your ass. So because of that reality, you might have had a problem. Now, you shouldn't have had any problems because you're married. You shouldn't have been with anybody to begin with. I mean, honor your vows or don't get married. But I'm not judging here because a whole bunch of people cheating that are married. And I get that. That's what pissed me off about the whole Ime Udoka scandal with the Boston Celtics. Because I know a whole bunch of people that's getting loose in the workplace in pro sports. And they weren't put on Front Street the way Ime Udoka was. And he wasn't even the one that was married. She was. But I digress. My point is, the dudes that get in trouble with screwing around at work are usually the ones that never had the ability to screw around because nobody wanted their ass. So they had to take whatever they could get. Because see, when you're getting some, you don't have to use work to do it. You feel me? There's exceptions. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's usually the case. So Andy Byron, welcome to the world of celebrity. They ain't know you before. They damn sure know you now. Sorry. It's just the truth. Before we end the show today, special tribute to one of the great ones. Lost, but not forgotten. Malcolm Jamal Warner, a.k.a. Theo Huxtable of The Cosby Show. My closing remarks about him up next. Stick around. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways of YouTube. Back with more. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to end this show today with a sad story, to say the least. TMZ has reported that Malcolm Jamal Warner, known by many as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, has died at the age of 54. ABC News confirmed Warner died of asphyxia after he was caught by a high current in the ocean. His body was reportedly found Sunday afternoon. I believe he was in Costa Rica at the time. For those of you who don't remember, Malcolm Jamal Warner was nominated for an Emmy for his role on Cosby. He had dozens of other notable acting credits. And he also won a Grammy Award in 2015 for Best Traditional R&B Performance. Had the pleasure of interviewing him years ago. Never really knew him. Always appreciated his wonderful work, his commitment to his craft, and how serious of a brother he was, considering all the things that you see people, particularly at his age at the time, the kind of stuff they get into when celebrity overtakes you. Never really happened to him. He leaves behind a wife and a child, and very, very few people know who they are or what they look like because he wanted it that way. He didn't want people to know his family. He wanted to live a very private life. He didn't want to be in the public eye like that. And we're certainly going to honor that today because that's something he would have wanted, and we need to show him respect in that regard. It's just incredibly sad. The Cosby Show, those of you who are young whippersnappers, you don't know breath smelling like Similac wet behind the ears, wasn't born until afterwards. In the 80s, the Cosbys were it. And when you look at the greatness of Bill Cosby, one of the most successful, one of the most well-known comedians and actors in history, in global history, known throughout this world as a funny man and a philanthropist, did so much good. I know he got himself in trouble, obviously, with some of the things he was accused of doing and ultimately found guilty of doing and served some time in jail. And now since he's been released, we haven't heard much from him. But the Cosby Show, this industry, meaning Hollywood, actors, actresses everywhere, particularly of African-American descent, we owe so much to the Cosby Show, so much. Bill Cosby was absolutely wonderful. Felicia Rashad was absolutely wonderful. So many others. But Theo stood out because that brother was not. He was fabulous. My favorite episode. You know the night time is the right time to be with the one you love now. It's one of my all-time favorite episodes in television history. He was phenomenal. He was great. But whatever he was as an artist, he appeared to be even better as a man. And to lose him this way so suddenly at the age of 54 with so much of his life ahead of him, it just stops you in your tracks and saddens your heart in a very palpable level. You don't wish this on anybody. And so my heart goes out to his family, his wife, his kid, any siblings, any living parents he may have, members of the Cosby Show family who were like family to him. There's so much good that came from this brother. There's so much good that he did. And I've never, ever encountered anybody in the industry who spewed a negative syllable about him. It's just so sad that this has happened. So my heart goes out to all of those who knew him, who loved him, and an industry who no doubt will cherish his memory and will be profoundly affected by his loss, now and for years to come. Malcolm Jamal Warner, gone entirely too soon at the age of 54. But of course, never forgotten. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all take care. God bless.